Hiya, and welcome back to Lyre. Hiya, the game that teaches us that all the diplomacy has to wait until the next day because that's how diplomacy works. God, that's loud. Let's just hop right in. I'm excited for diplomacy. I think that's so cool. The rest of the day passes by without any trouble. I started to feel really tired at one point. I laid in bed to rest my head for a bit and almost fell asleep. Lyle came in and nudged me back to reality. He told me that we should leave soon, so I put on my suit. The soap from that bath did wonders to my hair, giving it a really nice shine. It also feels nice, too. I pick up the letters and scrolls off the desk and make my way to the door. I look down the hall and see Lyle with his arms resting on the sill of the window. He's watching the sun go down behind the mountains and his figure is engulfed in warm light. His tail is swaying slowly behind him and his eyes are glazed with evening light. When I get closer, he turns his head and smiles. Look at the sunset. Isn't it gorgeous? I signed up for cute wolfmen, not this. I stand next to him and look out the window. The sun eclipses behind the mountains as its warm light cascades over the landscape. The waters of the fjord are glistening with bright pink and orange hues. A soft wind blows through the hall and twists around the pillars. I'm going to readjust this microphone real quick. There we go. Yes, it's very beautiful. You're probably not used to views like this. Wait, did I read? Back home there aren't as many mountains, but the way the sun shimmers off on the waters of the coast of Erin is very enchanting. I've never been that far west before. Really? Yes, I've spent all of my life on this side of the continent. I think that it would be very nice to go explore the rest of Tigrin. I think I already know the answer, but I ask anyway. Why don't you? He lowers his head with a bittersweet smile. Unless this kingdom sprouts legs and walks across the entirety of Tigrin, I can't. I have given my life and heart to the king and his kingdom. I will be doing this for the rest of my life. He gestures out across the landscape. That sounds sad. It's not all bad. I did go a little bit south of Lyre once. We begin walking down the hall at a slow pace. I think you would like Erin. It's a beautiful place with a perfect climate and rolling hills. I'm more interested in stranger places. Like the Shadow Gulch and the Parched Labyrinth. I just want to go somewhere new. Somewhere completely different from Lyre. We walk in silence a bit longer. Lyle is walking with his paws behind his back and his chin high. He keeps opening his mouth as if he's about to say something, only to close it. Finally, he speaks. I'm sorry about earlier. What? Snapping at you like that. It's my fault anyway. I could sense you were uncomfortable the whole time, but I thought I could make things less uncomfortable if I just played it casual. I'm usually the only one in there during that time of day. Is this about the bathroom? Yes? I reach over and place my hand on his back. It's fine. He grimaces, then puts on a shy grin. You're right. I'm sorry. I just tend to overthink these things. I didn't know you were so shy about your body. My jest gets to him as I watch his mouth curl like he's trying to stop a smile. I'm not. He sighs and waves his paw dismissively. I let out a slight chuckle. What? You have a cute laugh. I feel my face flush red. Please don't say that. We laugh together for a moment, then carry on the rest of our walk in silence. Delving far into the interior of the castle, we twist and turn through the halls. The torches lining the hallway are lit with a glowing blue fire. As we make our way deeper and deeper into the castle, we pass framed paintings of noble-looking people. I see a badger dressed in colorful clothing with a large ruff around his neck. A little ways down, I see a portrait of a fox clad in a white and purple silk dress and a shawl. After a while, we come across a large pair of double doors. Well, here we are. Are you ready? I swallow the lump in my throat and nod, straightening out my clothes. Lyre walks up to one of the large doors and raps at it. For a moment, there's only the sound of the door knocker echoing down the empty halls. Then there's a voice from the other side. Come in. Lyre glances in my direction and opens the door. The door swings open and a warm room meets my eyes. There is a large dining table in the center with 3 chairs. I look to my left and see the other chairs have been stacked up against the wall. Cabinets and chests line this wall underneath the curtained windows. On the far right wall there's a mirror and some wine. Straight ahead of me is a large painting of a table full of food and butchered meats. It looks like a royal pantry. A large chandelier hangs from the ceiling right above the table, illuminating the room with an orange glow from the candles. Despite all of this, the room does look fairly simple. My eyes take in most of this within a second, but after that I'm immediately drawn to the figures in the room who stand to greet me. Louis from Beastars, is that you? There, sitting in the chair to the left of the room, is a large stag, the king. His antlers are tall and elegant, framed by a crown with the crest of Tigran, the shimmering green gem at the top signifying Lyre's territory. Oh god, is he going to be like one of those characters who has like he has like resting bitch face, but he's actually like really nice? Is he going to be one of those characters? God, that's loud. He's clad in a large fur coat with greens and purples. It's almost as big as he's almost as big as Lyre. Oh my god, I got his whole vibe. Like, he's just like nice, but has resting bitch face. That one just looks like a bitch. Like, no niceness about it. He looks so aggressive, it's not even funny. Seriously, that smaller deer looks so aggressive. He just looks like he's just like a straight up bitch. Like not even tries to hide, not even like tries to be nice. Just ugh. I look to the right side of the table and see another deer. This must be the prince. He's not nearly as tall as his father, almost coming up to my height. The antlers on his head are small prongs. He's wearing similar colored clothing with a much more noble look to it. He has a cape draped over his shoulder pinned down with the crest of Tigran. His demeanor is dismissive and he barely makes eye contact with me. Oh my god! Why are these characters so easy to read, though? Oh my god. I turn my gaze back to the king and lower myself to one knee, bowing my head. King Raynar, it is an honor to finally be in your presence. He has a stern look on his face, but there's a warmth to his voice. It is good to see that you have recovered, Lord Richter. I am so terribly sorry about what happened to you on your journey here. Yes, it was an unfortunate event. I am very grateful for the welcoming hospitality that you and your staff have shown me. He gives me an understanding nod and gestures towards the prince. This is my son, Prince Adrius, yeah. I bow in his direction. It is a pleasure to meet you, Your Highness. He grimaces for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, then straightens up. Likewise. Oh god, he acts like Cassius, oh god. There's a short moment of silence which is broken by Raynar. I take it my captain has been helpful. Adrius. Oh, Adrius. Okay. He gestures towards Lyre, who is standing in the doorway. Lyre shrugs his shoulders and smiles. Very helpful, yes. That's good to hear. I knew that Captain Reed would do well with his task. Even though I'm looking in the king's direction, I can still hear Lyle's tail wagging furiously. No, Please, take a seat. It takes a moment for my legs to work again, and I walk around the table, passing behind Adrius. As I'm walking around the table, I hear the door close and realize that Lyre has left. Come back. We take our seats, and I set the box of scrolls and letters on the floor next to my seat. There's a moment of silence before Lyre speaks up. I hope that your accommodations are adequate. He rests his hands on the table, leaning back in his chair. They are more than adequate, Your Majesty. He draws back with a frown on his face. Please, you can refer to me as Lyre. I'd like to dispense with the formalities when not in public. If it pleases you. Lyre wasn't kidding. This is the most casual king I've ever met. Then again, I've only ever met one. Our queen is the no-nonsense type. What is that? He nods towards the box on the floor next to my seat. Oh yes. I bend down to pick up the small box and place it on the table. These are some important documents that were sent with me to deliver to you. No, wrong one. Here we go. Got much diplomacy. Financial reports, some settlements, news about the other territories, and other letters of intelligence. I figured that I should give these to you while I had the audience. He motions with his hand for me to slide the box his way. I push the box in his direction and he examines the documents. Is this everything? I fold my hands together. This is all that we could salvage after the crash. I have a list of the missing documents and I'll have copies delivered. He opens one of the letters and skims over it before placing it on the top of a small pile on the box. I thank you for bringing these to me. I shall go through these later and share these documents with the rest of my court so that they can evaluate them. He pushes the box off to his right and places his hands on the table. There's a half-minute of silence before Adrius lightly slaps his hands on the table in resignation. So that's it? Shut up, Cassius. A glance at a piece of paper and that's all you have to say? The mood of the room instantly changes, and for a moment I'm too shocked to even sink into my chair. As I said, I will look at these documents later. He turns to me, drumming his fingers on the table. I had hoped to delay this meeting until Lord Kadaj arrived. I definitely butchered that. But we have a kingdom to rule. Lyre has a stern look on his face as he stares his son down from across the table. I have a kingdom to rule, and 2 other kingdoms to work with. Okay. I see it as best to wait until both parties are here before discussing such matters. Adrius grits his teeth for a moment, then reluctantly concedes. Of course, father. I only have our kingdom's best interest at heart. Lyre leans back in his chair with a look of content on his face. Since we are still waiting on our ambassador from Driss, I assumed that we could use this time for introductions. He looks at me with a reassuring smirk. I'm still recovering from the random burst of tense energy, so I just nod in agreement. After a few minutes, the door swings open. 3 servers walk in pushing small carts with food placed on them. They begin to move all of the food to the table. There is a large roasted turkey sitting in the center of the table, surrounded by greens and potatoes. They smell delicious, and I can clearly see the steam coming off of them. Grapes of a rich purple color are placed on a plate near the center, and there are bowls of different dressings. A large bowl with a salad is placed on the table. The vegetables are layered perfectly, and it's drizzled in oils and vinegar. There's also a plate of crisp bread rolls. The smell reminds me of the bakeries back home. Finally, a large pot of soup is set next to the table on a rolling cart. The servers start to make our plates. I watch them take a little bit of everything and place it on mine. One of the servers walks forward with a pitcher of wine and fills my cup. After a while, everyone has been served their food. My plate is filled with just about everything. It's a lot of food, and I don't know if I'll be able to eat it all, but I just figure I'll eat as much as I can. Lyre's plate has a big steamed potato with a salad bowl with grapes on the side. Adrius opted for a single bowl of soup. We eat for a bit before Lyre speaks up. So, how are things in Erin? I haven't been to the Kingdom of Erin in about 10 years. I take a moment to finish chewing the piece of turkey in my mouth. I'm afraid you haven't missed out on much. Erin hasn't changed, and I don't think it will change for a while. The climate is as favorable as ever, and our citizens continue to thrive. I fear that I'm rambling, but when I make eye contact, I see that he's giving me his full attention, and seems interested in the topic. Meanwhile, the prince sits across the table from me, picking away at his soup with a look of disinterest on his face. I'm told that Aaron has managed to supply both Driss and Lyre with an abundance of food. We are fortunate to have such fertile farming lands, and very glad to be able to support our neighboring kingdoms. Especially with winter drawing near. Smooth. Raynor takes a sip of wine and leans back in his chair. I agree on that matter. It is very important that we work together. The people of Lyre know better than anyone how harsh winter can be. I'm sure that you do. He gives a slight smile and leans forward taking a bite from his salad. And we have your people to thank for this food. I nod in agreement, tipping my wine glass in his direction. We continue to eat while having conversations about our common interests. He seems to be very interested in me, which is new because I've never thought I was that interesting. I guess being in this castle all the time would make him want to live vicariously through others. That's a stretch though, and I might be overanalyzing. The prince has been quiet for most of the time, interjecting with his thoughts occasionally. The fucker's being Act 1 Ad Astra Cassius. So where exactly did you come from, and how did someone like you achieve nobility? He asked this with a look of disdain. I'm starting to dislike him more and more as the night goes on. I lower my glass after taking a drink and pause to swallow. Your Highness, I'm afraid that is not a very interesting story. He doesn't look satisfied with that answer. Lyle told me to get on his good side, but I don't think he has one. He seems to be bitter all around. He seems to be a bitch all around. I suppose. He traces his fingers around the rim of his wine glass while resting his chin on his fist. I just worked hard and proved myself useful. Speaking of hard work, I have important news for you, Lord Richter. I am choosing to appoint you as the Royal Financial Advisor along with your other duties. Do you think that you will be up to this challenge? I fold my hands and respond calmly. I have experience with this sort of work back home. It shouldn't prove to be a challenge at all. He looks to be very pleased to hear this. That is excellent news. The Winter Solstice Ball will be held a month from now, and we'll need to figure out the expenses. It should be quite exciting for you, considering you've never been to one. The Winter Solstice Ball? Yes, here in Lyre, it is one of our most famous celebrations. We celebrate the solstice as a reminder of the death and rebirth of our sun. We use this time to cherish our loved ones. That sounds really nice. I'll make sure that everything is in order. Very good. We have past records on hand that you can refer to. I'll have them sent to your apartment in the morning. Our meal goes into the night and soon everyone is finished eating. I can feel a cold draft from the windows behind me and crickets chirping. I didn't eat everything on my plate, but I still feel full. Raynor gets up from his seat and steps forward holding out a hand. I'm taken aback by this gesture, but reach forward. He takes my hand in both of his and shakes it up and down once with a firm grip. It was a pleasure to meet you, Lord Richter. I do hope that you enjoy your stay here, however long it may be. Thank you, Raynor. I gather myself and look toward the prince who is standing across the table. I give a bow in his direction. It was an honor to meet you, Your Highness. He gives me a slight smile, however I don't feel that it's authentic. You're too kind. It was nice meeting you too. One of the servers opens the door and Lyle walks into the room. I wish the both of you a good night. I give a bow in both their directions and then make my way to the door. Lyle stands near the doorway and as I make my way over, he gives me a wink with a soft smile. No, damn it. I feel like we need something there. What do we have that can work there? God, I really need to organize all this. Fuck it, I'm gonna put baby tie there just because. We walk through the doorway and I spot Raynar giving Adrius a despondent look before the door is closed. I assume everything went well? He places his paw on my shoulder with a reassuring smile. Well, I wouldn't say that it went bad. You're looking at the new financial advisor. That's good? I'm about to respond when I spot a painting of Raynar and Adrius. Raynar is looking off into the distance with a solemn look on his face while Adrius confidently glares forward. I'd say the artist captured them perfectly. I see it as a good opportunity, and I don't think it should be too hard. Okay, but how did it go? Dinner? With the king? I don't really know how to feel about it. He's certainly a nice person. I can imagine that he is a good king. He's got an understanding head on his shoulders. I agree. He is a great king. He has wisdom and kindness unparalleled with others. The prince, on the other hand... Lyre rolls his eyes at the mention of the prince. He's not the most pleasant person to be around. He's a bitch. He's Cassius if Cassius were a deer. And Cassius, like, especially early game Cassius, is a bitch. And he surely doesn't treat me with any respect. Really? We've moved over to one of the windows. He rests his paws on the sill and one of his ears twitches slightly. I can feel the cool night breeze blowing through my hair and on my face. I think he's called me by my name once. What does he call you? He sighs, tapping his paws on the bricks. Wolf, dog, and hound. Just to name a few. Well, that makes him ignorant. You're only one of those things. Yep, 100% pure Lyrian wolfman right here. He bangs his fist on his chest, clattering the metal plate. I laugh and he chuckles to himself timidly. But I don't think he'll be a problem. Aside from being annoying. Being a bitch. I'll steer clear of him either way. We continue to walk with Lyre in front, leading me through the maze of corridors. I watch the tip of his tail brush the floor from under his cape. We descend a flight of stairs and our walk begins to slow. I'm glad that we can enjoy each other's company. He fiddles with one of his gloves, pulling the forchets off of his fingers, then pulling the glove back down on his paw by the trank. It gets very lonely in this castle. It's hard to have friends when you're the captain of the Royal Guard. Things are nice, but I barely have any time to meet new people or go places. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air. I'm sorry this comes off as a bit odd, considering I only met you yesterday, but I'm looking forward to working with you, Richter. We arrive at the door to my room, and he stands there waiting for me to say something. I feel the same way. I've only known you for 2 days, and I already think I know you better than anyone back home. Really? Yeah. Back in Erin, people only want things from you, and if you don't have what they want, then they don't give you the light of day. You're the first person who I feel wants to actually be my friend, and isn't just trying to use me. I open the door to my room and step inside. Good night, Lyre. He looks at me with a soft smile, his eyes reflecting the little light that there is in this darkness. I can hear his tail beating against his cape as it wags back and forth. Good night, Richter. He closes the door and I can hear his heavy footfalls make their way down the hall. I take off my jacket and walk over to my bed, falling onto the mattress. I feel exhausted after everything that happened today. Everything fades out around me as I drift into a deep sleep. They'll be the death of you. Betrayal never comes from your enemies, but from those closest to your heart. And it always starts with trust. Chapter 3, Day 6. It's almost been a week since I've woken up. I ain't risking it. I am not risking it. I'm not risking it at all. The weather gets colder and colder every day, and I find myself yearning for a warm bath every morning when I wake up. The past couple of days have been pretty relaxing, to say the least. I've had plenty of time to work on preparations for the ball, and I've been taking it at a nice pace. Well, a pace that's nice for me, at least. All I really have to do is make sure the resources Okay. Silly-o. All I really have to do is make sure the resources are readily accessible and calculate the cost of everything. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. I've been wandering around the castle with Lyre on my free time, although I rarely allow myself free time, but every day I do take a break. He's been very good company the past couple of days, and he's been showing me around. We haven't gone into the city yet, but I've been able to explore most of the castle. Lyre has managed to cause my inner child to break out as we laugh and joke while walking through the halls. It's funny how he's supposed to be my guard, yet so far he's been my glorified guide. I do appreciate the assurance, though, as having someone there to keep me company and show me around is really nice. It's a good thing that we get along. I'd hate for this whole thing to feel too professional. The other day, he took me up to the tallest tower where we could see the entire city and fjord. His fur was blowing in the wind, and he had that dreamy look in his eyes. I've spoken to Lyre a couple of times. I'm not too sure how I should feel about him. He's very kind and seems to have his wits about him. There's still something very intimidating about him, though. At the beginning of every interaction with him, I start thinking he's out anxious, but then he manages to completely change the mood of the room. I guess he's just a big, friendly guy. I've ran into Adrius a few times during the week. He hasn't really paid me much mind aside from the occasional greeting, and I honestly prefer it that way. With the few interactions that we've had where it would have been extremely awkward if we didn't talk, it felt more like an interrogation. He's constantly asking me questions about Aaron. I have a feeling that he doesn't talk with people much. I also feel like the more I avoid him, the better. And then there's Leaf. I haven't seen him much. I passed him in the hallway once and we had a chat that wasn't too interesting. He's probably busy with his own work, which makes me feel like I've been too relaxed lately. I should probably crack down on my work as well. I get out of the bath and turn off the water. I don't feel as sticky this time since I only used a bit of soap. Walking over to one of the benches, I grab a towel and begin to dry myself off. I run the cloth down my body and between my legs, making sure I get all the water off of my body. It's very cold in here, and I know that it's even colder out there. I dress myself and leave through the door. Immediately, the cold hits my face and I start to speed walk back to my room. It's a crisp fall afternoon and the sun is casting a warm hue on the trees below. My footsteps echo down the hall as I get closer to the door to my room. I reach the door, and when I open it, I'm blasted with the warm air from my room. Oh. When I enter the room, Lyre is leaning back in one of the padded chairs, rocking it on its back legs. I close the door behind me and lean against it. There's no fire. How is it so warm in here? Well, he leans forward in his chair. The castle is built above a hot spring. It's where we get the water for our plumbing. The water runs through pipes built into the walls, and the heat rises up through the foundation. His demeanor slowly transitions into that of a happy child who is explaining something they're very interested in. It heats up the castle, which can be very nice during the colder seasons. It can be a real pain in the butt during the summer, though. My room will sometimes get so hot that I have to sleep with the covers off and the windows open. I bet that's certainly a sight. That's actually really interesting. And ingenious. Thanks. It's also why there's so many plants growing within the castle. He gestures to all of the leaves and vines on the wall. During this time of year, plants like to slowly work their way inside the castle walls seeking warmth. It's not really a problem for any of us, and Lyre does love his plants. Yeah, I've noticed that. My room alone is decorated with potted flowers, but I've seen way more plants scattered throughout the castle's many corridors and rooms. What about the plants in pots outside? I think those get brought inside once the weather becomes too harsh for them. That makes sense. We stand in silence for a moment before I walk over to my desk and sit down in the plush cushioned seat. I peruse the notes that I've made on some of the arrangements for the food. Everything seems to be in order, so I set it off to the side and grab another document. I have a list of questions and instructions on this parchment for one of the servants to take down to the market. I need to work out the costs of the meat, and I also need to settle the payments for each butchery that provides. I take this document and set it on one of the trays outside to be collected. If there's nobody there to deliver it, that's usually what I have to do. Someone will come by to pick it up. I sit back down and see Lyre now standing up from his chair looking out the window. His tail, which I am now able to see clearly without the bulky cape in the way, wags left and right. He turns to me and shakes his head, smirking. You work too much. I'm sorry, what? I don't think I work enough. How much have you gotten done so far? I've done a lot, but I still have a lot more to do. Is baby tie necessary now? No, it just felt empty there. Let's just get rid of him. I mean, I've already finished most of it, if I'm going to be honest with myself. I just wanted to get done ahead of time. You spent all morning slaving away at that tiny desk of yours like a workaholic. Then you went to take a bath, and now you're back to work. You really don't need to worry about this. It's not even your primary job while you're here. That doesn't start for a while. He reaches over and swipes my checklist off my desk. Hey! He turns away from me and skims it over for a hurried moment. Then he then turns around with a mocking look on his face. Most of this is already checked off. That's only one of the lists. He swipes the other list gracefully and holds it in front of his face. This one is almost complete too. He lets go of it and floats down and lands on the other list. I look at him with a deadpan. I'm just trying to get it done and out of the way. You're kissing up to the king, Richter. No, I'm not. I'm just doing my job. He lets out a laugh and throws up his paws in a defensive manner. Relax, I only jest. I roll my eyes and give a defeated yet annoyed chuckle. He runs a paw through his neck fluff as if it were a human's beard. I sometimes forget how similar we are in terms of mannerisms. Well, I am going to go on a walk. He walks over to the door and looks to me. Lock the door, okay? I really don't think that's necessary. Just do it, please. Fine. He walks through the door and closes it behind him. Not wanting to upset him, I take the key off the desk and lock the door. I grab the checklist and mark off some of the tasks that I did. As I lean against the bed frame and scribble on the list, I notice something out of the corner of my eye. There's a piece of parchment on the desk that's been drawn on. I pick it up and examine it. That's nice. It's a drawing of a flower. It looks like the one on my desk. I assume Lyre drew this, given the signature. I didn't know he liked to draw. For something that he has most likely scribbled while bored, this is very good. I place the drawing neatly back on the desk and walk over to my bed. I want to get back to work, but that bath made me feel very tired, and now all I want to do is sleep. I throw myself onto the mattress and pull the blanket over me, slowly drifting off. The hallway floor feels cold beneath my feet. I'm outside of some room. It looks like the entrance to my room, but there's something different about it. It feels like some sort of twisted version of my room. There's no windows in the hallway, and I'm further into the castle. My hands don't feel like my hands either. I feel like a different person. I try the door, but it's locked. There doesn't seem to be any other doors in sight. With this, I begin to walk down the hall. There are no other doors from what I can see. The corridor just seems to stretch on endlessly. As I walk further and further down the dimly lit hall, I can feel chills running up and down my body. The temperature seems to drop with every step I take. My steps become a bit stumbled as the hallway starts to twist. I regain my balance and keep pushing forward. Am I going the wrong direction? Was I maybe supposed to go the other way? I don't really think turning back is the best idea, especially since I've come so far. There's no turning back. Finally, I reach the end of the long and twisted corridor. There's a large archway that leads to a set of spiral stairs. I look behind me, and the hall is so twisted that further down the corridor, the floor is where the ceiling should be in relation to where I am standing. There's something else. A figure is walking towards me from where I came. They are very far off, and I can't make out who they are from this distance. From my perspective, they're upside down. Or are they right side up? Either way, I'm curious and don't want to be alone in this odd situation, so I wait for them. After a few seconds, I realize that they aren't getting any closer. It's as if they're walking in place. Their presence starts to unnerve me, so I give up and step through the archway. I take my first step down the stairs, holding onto the banister. As I go on, I start to shake from the cold. My whole body is freezing. After it feels like I've descended about 3 floors, I come across a figure on the staircase. They're facing away from me with their hands behind their back. I want to move forward and approach the figure, but I'm frozen in place. My body wants to keep going. The figure moves. They begin to walk up the stairs backwards. First one foot, then the next. It's not like they're moving in reverse. The way they are moving looks like they are actually walking up the stairs backwards. I don't really have much time to contemplate this, however, as I find myself stumbling up the stairs. I don't know what is going on, but I have a very bad feeling about this. The figure starts to pick up the pace. Each of their footsteps loosely slap against the slabs of stone. I miss one of the steps on my way up and trip, barely making it far enough to gain distance. I turn around just in time to see the figure bend backwards and loom over me. Bye. I jostle on the mattress, feeling like I was just jabbed in the sides. I hear a knock at the door and instantly mutter out a response in a confused and tired tone. Yes? Richter, please open the damn door. I muster my strength and rise out of bed, trying not to let all the blood rush to my head. Alright, I'm coming. I straighten out my clothes and quickly fix my hair. The key is laying on the desk where I left it. I pick it up and unlock the door. Lyre stands in the doorway, panting slightly, trying to catch his breath. Lord Kadaj is here. Huh? The ambassador from Driss. He's here. How long has he been there? About half an hour, I think. He was heading to the throne room with Lyre. I passed him in the hall while on my walk, and he asked me to come and get you. How long was I asleep? You were asleep? Yeah. I thought you were supposed to be working. I was working, I can't think of an excuse, so I cut myself off and sign defeat while he smugly smirks at me. You were asleep for about 30 minutes, I'd wager. Tidy up and make yourself look a bit more presentable. I touch my forehead with my hand and realize I was sweating. Okay. That nightmare was incredibly bizarre. I've never really had cryptic nightmares like that before. I've been getting them a lot lately. Actually, they started after I got here. Why can't I go back to having nice dreams? I grab a towel from the dresser next to my bed and dunk it into a bowl of cold water. I run it over my face and around my neck. Then I straighten out my clothes and fix my hair. How do I look? You look great. Nice. He gets to the door and holds it open for me. Thank you. You're very welcome, my lord. Please don't. I was pleased with how good the cold water from that towel felt on my face. Stepping out into the cold chill of the afternoon makes me regret doing it, though. My face feels like it's going to freeze up and crack like porcelain. Follow me. The throne room is this way. He leads me down a flight of stairs at the end of the hallway. I notice there are a lot of plants growing on the walls the further we go. I can hear the leaves crunching underneath my shoes. We're further from the outdoor hallways and getting closer to the inside of the castle. It's a lot warmer and I enjoy the feeling of the fire coming from the torches above. Lyre turns a corner, leading me down another hallway with a considerable amount of flowers and leaves adorning the walls. I assume the vitality fire coming from the torches is what's keeping these plants alive. I watch his large poofy tail swish back and forth as he walks ahead of me. He has a funny way of walking where he puts a lot of movement into his arms and shoulders. We arrive at a large archway and Lyre steps to the side, gesturing for me to walk through. Ooh, fancy. Fancy chair. What I see next is the most marvelous room I've ever laid eyes on. It's not much in terms of size, but it feels like something out of a dream. Large gold-tinted windows line the walls, casting light onto the floor. The entire hall is teeming with life. Patches of grass and plants are bursting out from the foundation, and golden flowers grow off of them like spots of sun. Their petals dance to the ground gracefully and lay in piles on the floor. The main attraction, however, is a spectacular sight at the very end of the hall. The ground has burst through the platform and a grassy patch has taken its place. On top of this, a large tree stump has been carved into a massive throne. Cushions line the seat and the golden crest of Tigron sits atop the back of the throne. I see Lyre's banners lining the walls with the Ossian family crest upon them and a large green rug leading up to the throne. Lyre and I begin to walk down the hall, with me taking the lead. Lyre is standing with his arms behind his back at the end of the hall, speaking with who I assume to be Lord Kadaj. Ooh. Fancy. Fancy cat. Even from here, I can tell that he is a feline. The pointy ears and tail give it away. I can't name what species he is, though. It's definitely not a species that I've ever seen, and I'm not very good with that sort of thing anyway. Looks like a lynx. He's about my height, maybe just a bit taller, and he's wearing a sharp green outfit with a smug attitude. His fur pattern is very intricate, and his ears have fluffy tufts coming off the ends. Oh my god, it's so nice. Is that what's playing right now? Because that's so nice. The feature that stands out the most, however, is his eyes. They're large cat-like eyes, and they shine like emeralds. His tail tightly whips to and fro in a lazy manner. Ooh, it's fancy. Raynar notices me approaching and turns in my direction. Ah, there he is, our royal financial advisor. I give him a nod and a smile as I approach. My apologies for being a bit late. I was not very prepared. Lyre forces himself to hold back a laugh. Kadaj speaks up. If anyone should be apologizing for being late, it's me. I'm now close enough that he reaches out a paw. Please allow me to properly introduce myself. I am Lord Kadaj of Driss. I take his paw and shake firmly. It's very nice to meet you, Lord Kadaj. I'm Lord Richter of Erin, and this is Lyre Reed, Captain of the Royal Guard. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Lord Richter and Lyre Reed. King Raynar has mentioned you quite a bit. I look to Raynar, and he looks at the two of us. Ooh. All good things. It's true. We were just exchanging stories. I was just telling King Raynar the story of why I was delayed. What happened? He breathes in and begins to explain. We were making our way through the canyon pass when we were sat upon by bandits. My soldiers fought bravely, but we were out of our element and easily cornered. That sounds terrible. My men fought them off, but they stole our carriages and carts, riding off, leaving us stranded. There weren't too many casualties, thankfully, but we were stranded in the canyons with no food or water. It took us about a day and a half, but we finally came upon an outpost. I sent a letter to Driss and made sure the outpost would be compensated for the horses, carts, and supplies we borrowed. After that, we made it through the rest of the canyon pass and up through the northern run. He pauses and we let this revelation sink in. Something needs to be done about those bandit groups south of the glade. It's bad enough that they prey on travelers, but now they're directly attacking royal officials. He turns to Kadaj and nods his head. Rest assured, I will do what I can to resolve this issue. My advisor and war minister is away on a sensitive diplomatic mission, and I estimate she will not return for a couple of weeks. If there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know. Thank you, but I believe that something like this would be best conducted with her here. The king's advisor? I was wondering why I hadn't met them yet. However, I trust that you will be able to handle the task that I have given you with care. Of course, your majesty. That's why I'm here. Here comes. You can just call me Raynar. Bingo. As you wish. A silence falls over the golden hall, and before we let it get too awkward, I speak up. An avalanche wiped out half of my entourage, and I was wounded for a couple of days. Really? Yes. That's a bit blunt. He's right. I should have went about that better. I'm not very good at telling stories. My apologies. I haven't really had the chance to tell anyone yet. Just didn't even care. Just like, how's that? Well, when you're knocked out for 4 days, everyone seems to find out before you do. It takes a moment, but Kadaj lets out a quick, loud laugh. You're very clever. He gives me a curt nod and a smile. People always tell me I'm too clever for my own good. Don't worry, I think it's a good type of clever. Oh, he's the flirty type. Thanks. I give him a smile and turn to Raynar. So, this is the throne room? Raynar turns in the direction of the throne, biting his lip. Yes, and this is my throne. It's a very handsome chair. Yes, but not as comfortable as one would think. Some say that it's the source of all life in the kingdom. Looks like it. I gesture around the room and out into the hall. Raynar chuckles. Yes, well, they also say that the water from deep under the ground is what gives this area life. The tree was cut ages ago, but it still continues to thrive. And yet it will never reach its true potential. Stay there. Adrius announces his arrival by walking through a door behind the throne. I take it you finished your classes? Of course. Lord Kadash, this is my son, Prince Adrius. Raynar gestures towards Adrius as he approaches us. Kadash strides forward and bows in front of Adrius. I don't, but I'm still going to call him gay. Acting like Cassius right now. Ugh. Actually, let's just play it safe. I'm just going to remove the gay part. We're just going to call it baby jail. There we go. He's in baby jail. Go. Goo goo gaga yourself. I don't know. Prince Adrius, it is an honor to make your acquaintance. Adrius seems pleased with this display. Thank you, my lord. I take it your trip went smoothly? Not as smooth as one would have hoped. I ran into some trouble on the road. I can explain it to you later if you like, but right now I need a hot bath and some rest. He walks up to me and grabs both of my hands in his paws. It was a pleasure meeting you, my lords Richter and Lyre. I can't say I've met many humans. Lyre gives a quick bow of acknowledgement. I can't say I've met many, Caracals? Caracals? Yes, forgive me. I don't know, in a lot of visual novels, that's been the case where everyone's gay. We're just going to assume that Adrius is straight from now on. He's straight. My knowledge on different species is a bit rusty. There's nothing to be forgiven. I'm a bit of a rare species. He turns and bows to Raynar and Adrius. It was very nice meeting you, Raynar and Adrius. I'll take my leave. Hopefully my guards haven't trashed my room yet. Adrius looks less than pleased at being referred to without his title. Ugh. Kadaj then walks down the hall and disappears through the archway, his tail whipping around the corner. Before anything else can happen, Adrius speaks up. Lord Richter, I'd like to have a word with my father alone if you don't mind. Raynar looks to his son with an inquisitive look. Of course. I'll be going now. Goodbye. Take care. I turn and walk down the hall with Lyre following behind me. I can hear Adrius mumbling something to Raynar as I round the corner. Even with the echoing halls, it's hard to make out what he's even saying. We make our way a couple steps down the corridor before Lyre speaks. He seems a bit eccentric. I take a seat on one of the benches nearby and rest my head against the back of the wall. I like him. Lyre sits down next to me, lifting his tail so that he doesn't sit on it. I don't know. I don't trust him. He crosses his arms and looks at me. He seems like a man with motives. Is it because he's a cat? No, it's not because he's a cat. That's a bit rude, you know. He has an annoyed look on his face. I was only joking, but I'm sorry. It's fine. I actually enjoy cats. They're good at making conversation. As we talk, I notice two guards walking down the hallway with their helmets under their shoulders. One is an eagle who looks to be in his late 30s, and the other is an old, large bear with a beard. They're wearing the same type of armor as Lyre. When they get close enough, the bear nudges the eagle, looking in Lyle's direction. He whispers something in the eagle's ear, which makes the eagle chuckle. They get closer, so I decide to stare at the wall and pretend I'm lost in thought. I'd like to avoid drawing any attention. Lyre watches them as they pass. Gentlemen. Captain. They both say this in unison, one a bit more begrudgingly than the other. Lyre gives a nod, and they both continue moving down the hallway. I wonder what that was all about. It seemed very forced. As I was saying... He bends over, resting an elbow on his knee, and begins to speak in a more hushed voice. You can't just blindly put your trust into people like him. I know that. Never said I trusted him. I just think he seems nice. And what do you mean by that? By what? People like him? It's not like that. I mean ambassadors and diplomats. I give him plenty of time to let those words settle in before talking. Lyle, I'm an ambassador. Yeah, but I mean I trust you though. And somehow I know you won't make me regret it. I'm taken aback by this and can't think of what to say at first. Lyle, thank you for putting your trust in me. I'm just here to help. I won't let you down. He stands up and looks down at me. I know. I get up too and carry on with walking down the hallways. Lyle catches up to me and matches his pace with mine. Hey, I want to show you something really cool. What is it? You'll see. Follow me. I want to dispute this at first, but I shrug my shoulders and follow him down the halls. Bug flying around. Bug. We stroll down a corridor overlooking a courtyard, and up ahead there's an exit that leads outside. Lyle picks up his pace, practically speed walking. He reaches the archway and turns around, standing there waiting for me to catch up. I reach the opening and look outside. Pretty, huh? Ooh. The cold fall wind lightly whips my face and I'm found staring at a beautiful garden. Smooth and round stones and berry bushes line the dirt path. Each berry is red and shining, almost as big as cherry tomatoes. The entire garden is surrounded by stone walls and large, thick trees. The place feels more natural than most gardens, like a serene sanctuary. Birds chirp and wind blows through the trees, causing leaves to dance on the ground. Towards the center is a pond with a fruit tree. Each fruit tree has a round pink fruit growing on it. Some of the fruit has fallen to the ground next to the pond and at the base of the tree. The pond has a strange green glow to it, as if there are lights at the bottom. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, wow. Welcome to my favorite place in the kingdom. It's beautiful out here, and it's also a really nice day. The weather outside usually fares better at this time of day. He's right. The cold isn't that bad with the sunlight basking on my skin. I guess I should enjoy moments like this before the weather becomes too unbearable. Oh, here. He walks over to one of the berry bushes and he plucks one of them. Try one of these. Oh, I take the berry and put it in my mouth. I take a bite out of it and instantly it bursts with flavor in my mouth. It's not necessarily the best taste, but it feels good. The berry was cold, which is good because I like cold fruit. That was pretty good. A smile breaks out on his face as he pops a berry in his mouth. Yeah, they're really good. Raynar absolutely loves them. Really? Yeah. Sometimes he'll take walks through the gardens and pick berries to bring up to his room in a basket. They grow really fast, so we always have plenty. Also, all of the fruit in the garden is unaffected by winter, so we don't have to worry about them. That is actually really cool. Now that he mentions it, I was wondering why the fruit was still on its trees, especially since it snowed a couple of times while I was here. Of course, it wasn't enough snow to be bad. It snows much more up in the mountains. Thinking about the snow in the mountains causes me to think of the avalanche. I try to push it out of my mind, but a horrible feeling begins to overwhelm me. What's wrong? It's nothing. My mind has been racing lately. I don't know, sometimes I'll catch myself talking to people, but I'm not even paying attention to what I'm saying or what the other person is saying. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah, sometimes. But that's not what's bothering you, is it? How could you tell? I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm good at being able to tell when someone's lying. Is that why you don't like Kadaj? Well, I guess. The problem with him is that I couldn't tell whether he was lying or telling the truth. And in my opinion, that's worse. Now stop changing the subject. What's wrong? I clasp my hands together in front of me and continue to walk down the path at a slow pace. My thoughts have been going dark places recently. I've been trying to push them out, but they keep resurfacing. What are these thoughts about? Well, so much has happened recently. A lot of it happened while I was out, so it feels like it's happening too fast. By the time I had woken up after being knocked out for so long, the survivors had already left for Aaron. I don't even know who died. Did I know them? Then my mind starts racing with more thoughts of what happened. I've never really been bothered by something like this before. I fiddle with one of the buttons on my vest as we walk. I don't know why, but death has never really bothered me that much. Sometimes I feel like I'm forcing myself to act shocked or sad. Growing up, people close to me or people I knew would die all the time. I guess that I'm just numb to it. Or I was. This time it's different. With each passing day, the guilt gets worse and worse, and I take a moment to catch my breath. I just miss home, I guess. As childish as it sounds. I throw one of the berries to the side of the path in anger. That's not childish. Yes, it is. I know he's right, but I just feel so stupid right now. It's completely normal to be homesick. Do you have any family? A wife? Oh boy. No, I'm not married. Really? I figured you would be one of the most desirable bachelors in your kingdom. I try with all my might to not get too flustered by this comment. Yes, well, if only I desired them as much as they desired me. I keep walking for a moment before he finally takes a hint. Oh. Oh! I had no idea. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I would have never guessed. He puts a paw on my shoulder, smiling. Yeah, most people don't. I want to change the subject, but he beats me to it. You might not like to hear this, but it's often the phrase most people use, but they're in a better place now. It was a tragic accident, and you shouldn't blame yourself for it. I don't blame myself for it, but it just terrifies me thinking about it. Death has always been a pretty confusing subject for me. I mean, I grew up being taught to feel a certain way about something, but then after a while I become numb to those feelings. And then when those feelings really do take over, my entire mind just shuts down. Do you know what I mean? I can kind of understand. He runs his paw through his neck fluff again. Thanks for listening. I'd rather not talk about it anymore. We step off of the path and stroll over to the pond underneath the fruit tree. I sit down in the grass and Lyre walks up to the tree. He picks up 2 ripe fruits from the branches and walks back over to where I'm sitting. He throws me a fruit which I catch clumsily. The skin is a bit tough and the hole where the stem was is dripping with sticky substance. It's gotten all over my right hand, but I ignore it. He takes a seat on the tree stump in front of me with an understanding smile on his face. Raynar can keep his weird chair. This is my throne. He then takes a large bite out of the bottom of the fruit, getting juice all over his mouth in the process. Aww. Cute. So, yes? You prefer the company of men? I know, it's so cute. Right now, it's so similar to, like, just the entire existence of Aaron and Damien. Like, his face is just so squishable right now. It's just so squishable. Oh, so that's what you got out of this little chat we just had. I jab at his leg with my foot. Hey, you were the one who said you didn't want to talk about the avalanche anymore. And can you blame me for being curious? I fold my hands on my lap and look down at the pond water. I guess I can't. Sorry, I usually have a habit of dropping that information like a bomb. I'm not too open about it, but I also don't try to hide it. And you most likely won't have to. Most people in Lyre are perfectly fine with it. Yeah, I've heard. I don't know. I've just never really been interested in women. Neither have I. Oh, so this is a coming out party. Got it. He shuffles his feet on the ground and looks at the fruit in his paws. Wait, really? Yeah. I mean, growing up I thought I liked girls, but as I got a bit older I realized that I didn't. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. I can't believe this is happening. I'm really happy to hear this, but also super nervous. Does he think I'm trying to make a move on him? Is he making a move on me? My mind spirals out of control for a brief moment. It's been a problem for me in the past. God damn it. Fuck. Okay, that is a huge problem. I have like a drink and it just spilt everywhere. Fuck. Yeah, I'm gonna go like clean it up. I'm gonna plug my mouse. Yeah, I'll be right back. Fuck. I just spilled drink on my computer. I'm gonna have to wipe it down. Pa. Your mouse pad go dry off. Tell again. Why does it do this? There we go. Trackpad now. Get that out of here. Get out of your house. Yeah, try not to let it bother me either. There's a long pause. It seems like the both of us don't know whether to continue on this topic or change the subject. I hold up the fruit that he gave me. What is this? But that's a dragon apricot. They're really sweet and they have a lot of juice. Yeah, I can tell. I point to his muzzle, which confuses him for a second. He goes to lick it off, but completely misses. God damn it, quit being so squishable. Ah! Ah! He then sticks his tongue out at me. Turn your tongue orang. It's so cute! I am going to squish your face! I chuckle at a silly display and he laughs too. He's right, they do turn your tongue orange. I take a bite into mine and my mouth bursts with flavor. I don't really enjoy the texture that much, but its pros outweigh the cons. This is really good. Yeah, just watch out for the seed in the middle. I look down and sure enough there's a seed exposed for my bite. We continue to eat and talk as the sun slowly sets over the mountains. After a while, we head inside the castle and make our way back to my room. I have a question. Ask away. Why aren't you wearing your armor? Oh. Today's my 23rd birthday. Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Ow, ow. Happy birthday to you. Ow, ow. I get the day off. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's not really that important to me. And I wanted to spend the day with you without it being too extra. I wouldn't have spent all morning doing work if I knew that it was your birthday. Richter, honestly, it's fine. I enjoyed being able to relax. Plus, the armor is a real pain on the shoulders. He rolls his shoulders back and smile. Getting on the topic of Lyle's armor causes me to remember those guards we saw outside the throne room. Hey, Lyle. Yes, Richter? Do you remember those two guards whispering about us in the hallway? He takes a moment to answer. Yes. What do you think they were talking about? Richter, I think they were talking about me. They think I'm your lackey. He looks down at the ground with a frown. But you're not. You're just assigned to be my guard. It's a bit confusing though, don't you think? The captain of the royal guard was assigned to guard an ambassador when he should be guarding the king. Raynar appointed me as captain for certain reasons that he feels he doesn't need to justify, and the other guards are confused by it. Well, what do you think? He picks a leaf off of one of the vines and examines it. I trust our king's judgment. He's very wise and has plenty of experience. I believe that he chose me for a reason. My ability to command, my mentality, my youth, whatever it may be. And he assigned me to you because, well, I don't know. But there are other guards with much more experience who can protect the king and the prince. And I like being your guard. He looks down at me with a smile. I like it too. We arrive at the door to my room and Lyle opens it. Richter? Yes? I know that you're pretty open about it, but I won't tell anyone about what we talked about earlier. Oh, thanks. I don't really care if you do, though. Okay, just can you promise me something? Sure. Please don't tell anyone about what I said. Of course. Thank you. We're gonna leave off here tonight. God, fuck. Lyle is so cute. The ultimate achievement. Silver trophy achievement. Anyways, I don't know what much else can be said. So I'm gonna head off of here. Stay safe. Have a good night. Oh my god, yes. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.